Hey kids, Inverted Cow here. Welcome back to Scrap Mechanic. Let's jump back into the game. Okay, we're back in the game here. Now with the reload, of course, everything starts working again, which is always the case. You'll see that I've set up the sawmill in front of me here because this is going to be the project of the day. I've gone out and I've picked up a load of wood. As you can see, I've grabbed the trailer and I've just taken it out and filled it up with almost a full load. Actually, I normally have about 2 or 3 more loads on here, but that's okay. Including a couple of these small trees. I wanted to show what I normally run into with the sawmill. Now, of course, as you can see, there are 3 or 4 different types of tree that you will pick up. In addition to those giant, extra heavy redwood or hardwood trees, you have this incredibly long tree. You have a stubby one. Let's see if I can find one here that shows very well. You have a stubby one that has a curvy branch on it, and you have these pine trees with their ridiculously hideous branches. So if you try to hit those with a welder, the branches will blind you. These are all the softwood trees that you will run into, and each one poses a different set of issues. The easiest one to overcome, of course, is the pine tree with the blinding branches. You just have to get close to what you're welding it to. The one I have a lot of problems with is these skinny little tiny trees. I have one in the sawmill. I was hoping that it would stay jammed the way it was so I could show it to you, but now it seems to have cleared itself off. Oh no, it's still jammed. Okay, this is a problem I always have. It gets stuck between the saw blades, it won't cut. And another one that you will have is that it will have pieces that will get stuck in behind the wheels. And for the amount of wood that you get out of one of these, they're really a big pain in the butt. Now the larger trees, of course, the problem is they fall off the end. That can usually be solved by just placing your lift off the end and picking it up so that it pushes it up. I've ran this back end out quite a ways. I've extended it. I've put alterations to it. That problem is the number 2 problem I have all the time, especially with the really heavy, really long, heavy hardwoods. The only reason I didn't collect any hardwoods is I just didn't want to take the saw car out and go cut a couple down. And the other problem I have with the curvy ones, which I can't seem to spot one in here, and I don't want to take that lift apart because then my frames will drop to 0. The other problem I have with the curvy ones, of course, is they don't land flat on the sawmill and therefore don't cut well. Now the other issue I have is the resource chunks, the logs, get stuck up in this set of rollers here. These rollers, there are a few of them that are actually turning. As you can see, there's this one here is turning, that one, and of course this one here on top. They're all turning, but they're not like there is low friction on these short pipes, so they don't really feed fast. But they're only supposed to just help scooch the stuff along the last little bit. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But I usually end up with having a whole stack of resource crates sitting up here that are filling up with resources, and the resource collector is not picking them up. So what I really need to do is a big redesign on this saw. They announced in an experimental branch, or test branch I think they're calling it, a new patch update which will allow the crafting of batteries. I am kind of really looking forward to that, because the electric motors are ideally suited for drills and saws. I've seen people with electric motors on their vehicle running their drills, and the drills don't bounce around and kick and jump as nearly as bad as they do with the gas-powered engines. And that's something I really want, because this is small. It's made out of concrete. It's entirely made out of concrete, but it's small, it's light, and it's meant to just basically scoot up the hills and drill stones loose. And then I pick them up, and then I slap the resource crates, usually on the side of the sawmill here, and just let the sawmills work on that. So I want to build a sawmill resource production machine. Now normally I've tried driving this around. Like I mounted it to the back of the trailer one time, and I drove around with this attached to the back of the vehicle, processing as I drove, and yeah, the collisions tank my frames. Like literally my computer will drop down to 0 FPS, which you really don't want to be trying to play and drive at 0 FPS. Oh, you're not picking it up because you're full. That's why. I don't have his chest on him. I just walked into a post. That's not a post. This is a post. Yeah. Okay. So keeping all of those things in mind, I want to start building a new sawmill. So I am going to cut a lot of this video out, a lot of the building parts of this video out, because, well, dragging blocks and counting and figuring stuff out is a bit of a pain in the butt. But this is what we're starting with. Those are the problems we have to overcome. So I'm going to cut here. I'm going to spend a little bit of time. I'm going to do a bit of building. I'll bring you back when I start getting some concept stuff worked out, as well as start getting the beginning of the frame and stuff worked out. Now I did go back to the warehouse and I picked up another load of pipes and rusted metal, and I think I've got almost a full chest of the rusted metal. And if I go in the water here, I have a couple more lengths of pipe that I can play with. There should be can we swim, please? There should be down here somewhere also a thing of couplings. I'm not sure where it went to, but they roll around. I throw them in the water because it doesn't seem to render the stuff below water unless you're in the water. So it's like you don't see that stuff down there unless you're actually in the water, which is really kind of handy. The same goes for all the debris that I pull off those little shacks. I have a couple of floats of that stuff tied up down underneath there. And over on this side, of course, I have the load of pipes that I brought back from the first warehouse trip. Down here. And this is all just short segments and some curvy pieces. This is the first load that came back on the warehouse raid. Yeah, so I mean, like, I have a lot of pipe to go through. Eventually I'm going to do is just find a way to tie that all up underneath so that it is not free floating and it's actually just secured, mount it to the ground somehow, and then I should be able to just go and pick it up and harvest it. I need to do that also with all these tote bot heads that keep appearing in the water, because they're they're also something causing problems. Yes. So I'm going to work out how I'm going to build this thing, start putting the basic assembly together, the basic frame, and I'll bring you back once I've got a bit of a frame and proof of concept put together, and then we'll start working on making everything actually work. I'm still debating on whether or not I'm going to make it battery powered or not for now because of the issue with batteries. I would like to leave it so that it is running without need for power. Like, this is strictly running off controllers. Controllers and bearings are cheap. I don't mind going and hunting bots for component kits to make them, as long as I don't have to pay for, like, take the time to go out and dig for fuel or swim for gas or whatever I have to do. That's fine. So I'll be back shortly. Okay, we're back. I have built, whoops, other way down. I have built a loading tray, if you will. Basically the same idea as what I had before, but now rather than being horizontal, it was built at a bit of an angle. So everything is got gravity working towards it to help feed it in. That should help with the exceedingly long trees. Because basically what I could do right now is just take the sawmill part and stick it to the front of this, and that would help with the really long trees. It's also 4 blocks wide or 5 blocks wide, so that'll help with the hardwoods. That'll handle the hardwoods. And there's no places for crap to fall in on the sides, between the sides of the wheels or anything like that. So that'll help eliminate the problem I had with the skinny trees. Also, the last three sections, if you will, I put the extra double rollers on. So those are double rollers and those are double rollers to help in case any of these go sideways or get cut or broken part way, they can just keep rolling in. And that should feed everything into the cutter, if you will. Now what I'm thinking of doing is setting this up so that I have essentially a bearing kind of deal here. I don't have anything to really work with, so I'm just going to use blocks. That bearing has an arm that swings out, and attached to that arm is a saw blade like this. Basically the idea is, as this log or as the tree progresses down, I want it to reach a point where it hits this hits a stopper, 2 blocks large enough for 2 sections of tree or 2 log lengths long, and then this saw blade swings up and slices it off, chops it, and then this saw blade would retract, and then the whole thing would roll forward again. Now I'm going to have a sensor on there so that it's like, yes, okay, there's an object in the way or something. I'm not sure how, because I don't know if the sensor would be able to pick up the small logs and the big logs as well, but it should. Or even just a series of sensors, because then I can pick up the crooked logs. Now the idea is to drop it in, have it two sections long, because the saw blade will cut through one section and break it up, and then the other section of log should fall in. Now what I want to do is have a hopper kind of attachment that basically drops right over top of the saw blade assembly. I can't jump today. Come on, thank you. And I'm going to do is I'm going to have three more saw blades installed basically into this section. I'm going to take these rollers out, I think, and I'm just going to put three saw blades in so that the blades overlap each other. So there's a saw blade in between each of these voids. So anything that falls down into the hopper will fall on top of those saw blades, and it can jump and rattle around in there all at once. It's not going to make any difference because it will only sit on those saw blades. It won't fall any further in. The idea being is that what I can do is then use basically what I have here with a hopper or a collector and a processor, and I have the same mirrored on the other side, and the stuff falls down, it gets chopped up, the collectors should pick it up. Now I am going to lift these saw blades up so that the collectors are actually under the saw blades a little bit more, so that the stuff falls onto the saw blades and then through the saw blades into the collectors and then into the machines. So that's the next part of the build, is to figure out the cutoff assembly here, which as you can see is going to be relatively simple, and then design the hopper system, which also means that the end of this is going to be very high up, meaning that where I place the tree at this end has to be higher than that back half of that ramp. So I'm going to have to count the number of blocks transitioned, come up here, and that would be where the weld point would go. And the weld point, I'm just going to basically put the same idea as what I have here, just have a spot where I have a concrete block or something that is an identifiable block I can just easily take off, pop on, and drop the trees in. So I'm going to pause again here, pick it up after I have got the hoppers or got the saw assembly figured out. And then we'll put this all together and we'll test it out. So don't go away, kids, be right back. Okay, we're back. I have made the cutting pit, if you will. It's two sets of offset saw blades facing upwards. One of the things I have noticed is that these saw blades, from watching other people's videos, is these saw blades actually, the cutting surface is on the side here as opposed to on the teeth. So when the material falls in here, it will cut or get damaged by the yellow circle, not the teeth. So it's quite okay to overlap them slightly like this. It's not going to affect their performance. It might actually improve their performance. Also, I attached one saw blade. I used two of the big the yellow pipe connectors brackets, and I just put three pieces of material between them. It kind of looks like it's got a belt drive. And then I attached it to a bearing there. That way I can do is I'll just rotate it up and down and cut the logs off so that the log pieces will cut off and fall into here. Now I figured I'd stop here and show you where we're at, because you know I'm still building, but basically this should be my outermost limit. It actually should be probably about 2 blocks further forward as the outermost limit of my cutoff, but that's okay, because if that cuts through the middle of one segment, that's fine as well. So we can just finish putting this down here. And that becomes the saw room, the saw, come on you, the saw containment area, whatever you want to call it. Basically, raw materials fall in that room, and that's where they live. Now I'm going to do the same thing I did on the other side here. I'm going to put 2 resource containers on, and then set up another one of these refine bots. And then what I'll do is I'll feed these in to the middle. So this bot here, I'll take the output from him and I'll go get another bot, and I'll do the same. I'll mirror it basically on the other side. Both pieces feed in to the middle underneath the sawmill here, and then I can hook it into a chest, and then I can look at doing something like grabbing another refine bot and literally have this as a semi-mobile refining station. I mean, basically I just drop this where I'm going to work, and away we go. We just drop it and refine it. Now of course the next issue is I might have to actually make it into a vehicle in order to move it. As it sits, I could probably still weld it to the back of the trailer, even with the 2 refine bots on here, because it'll be a little bit wide. It'll be a lot wide, but the weight is all at this end. This part here for the chute, the load in, that's going to have almost no weight on it. I'm going to put some some mesh around the top of it so the logs don't fall off the sides, and tidy it up when we get to the finishing part aspect of it. But I wanted to bring it in, show you where we're at here. Now I'm going to have to drop it to move this lift to continue building, but I figured this is where we're at. I still have to do the controls. I haven't even started on controllers and none of that other jazz. But you can see the progression of the build now, and I'll be back after I have basically mirrored this side here. I'm just going to cannibalize the base for that part and hooked up the vacuum pipes, so everything's going into one chest. So once that's all done, we'll bring you back, and then we'll start figuring out how we're going to do all the hookups for controls and all that jazz. So don't go away, we'll be right back yet again. Okay, we're back. I'm just putting some lighting up upon this thing, because I want to be able to see, and I want to make sure that I've got these things reasonably symmetrical, and I bet you I don't, but that's okay. There we go. That should give us some light to work with. Now the pit is done. But if you come around to the front of this thing, or the end of this thing, I'm not sure how you want to call it, it's off center, and I can't figure out, like, I honestly, I cannot figure out why this is not equal, because I have built everything as symmetrically as I can. You know, the thing is 5 blocks wide. It lands up in the middle, but I think it might be is that I lined this up in the middle originally, and then I made this one a 4 and that one a 3, and the line in the middle should have been actually off the front one which would have been here, which that's where my error is. It's too late now. I'm not going to tear this all apart just to move this over 2 blocks. We'll have to live with it. But that is all the stuff on and hooked up. I still have to get all the controllers. Oh, why can you not jump today? Ugh. I still have to get all the controllers and such hooked up, so we're going to do that next. I've just got some vacuum pipes being crafted here. And I think I might order another one of these if I have the parts. I don't have the parts. I have to go swimming for glue again. I have to go swimming for glue again. Okay. That's okay. So now this has to come out 2 blocks. Like so. And corner over. Like that, right? That should line us up. And we'll come out as a full length. I'm just going to grab this chest. This will be our dummy chest, and we're going to set this in the middle. Should be right. Come on, please. Oh, damn it. Why? Oh, I hate the outlines on this. Like, make them so that they stand out. There. Okay. I may need another piece yet. Please go in. Oh no, there we go. That wasn't full length, that's why I didn't connect. So that connects that grinder. And so I'm just going to need a couple more pieces of pipe. A couple more pieces of pipe here. Okay. That we can work with. That, bing, okay, we have connection. Both sides are now connected. So theoretically, everything on here should now be connected, except all the bearings to make everything work. And I'm still not sure if I want to do an electric motor in here to power the saws or not. I kind of do, just because of the torque that they produce. I mean, the saws don't have to spin fast, they just have to spin. The drawback is, of course, as I said, currently I cannot build electric batteries. I have to still salvage them, which can be kind of a pain in the butt. I mean, I do have some left from the warehouse raid, but not very many. And I don't do a lot of salvage runs right now. I got 30 or 3 stacks, so I got 60 of them. That should be okay, kind of. Yes, I do want to get back to doing some work on the tank here. I don't want to cannibalize this too much for parts, but I can probably scoop the fuel out of it. Gas isn't that hard to come by when cutting wood. I don't know. I think I'd remember I can't walk through that corner anymore. I'm not sure. It's either or. But I'm going to grab these two connectors, which are both fully upgraded. We'll start by slapping these in here. Why can't you ever just go on the wall facing the right way? Okay, so we're going to need the connection tool. I have a couple more of these. Don't know what grade this one is, but we're going to slap this guy in the middle here. What is this one? This one's a level 1. So this would actually work really well for that saw. Okay, so this, its default position should be negative. Come on. You had it there. Negative 105. And then it should go to 0 and then back to 105. I'm not sure yet. Okay, so we'll try that. I'm going to take this off the contraption here. Okay, that's what I was expecting. This is good. That holds it up and out of the way of the thing. So what I can probably do is actually just set it so it rotates back just a tiny bit more, but I don't think I need to. I mean, I just literally need that to sit back out of the way. I don't care if the trees catch on it. If it smashes up a tree, it saves those ones down there. What I do need is to have it so that the tree stops when it hits that wall. So I would need to have all of these set to the same trigger that triggers this saw blade. And like I said, I'm probably going to do is just put a sensor in here. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. I mean, literally I could just tuck it in right there and have it aiming across the thing. Let's hope that's low enough. So I'll have to get a sensor. I'm going to have to upgrade it, I guess. So we'll go order a sensor. Apparently have to go swimming for glue. Welcome to survival games. Alright, so the next thing we're going to do is we're just going to grab one of these controllers and we're just going to connect it to each of the wheel sets. So this one here is going to be real simple. I'm just going to set all of these at 360 and I'm going to set them on loop, and I'm not even going to set them fast, just leave them on the slowest speed, simply because they don't have to move fast. They're just feeders. They're just trying to push the log forward. Okay, so there's that. Now I need to go grab myself an electric motor and some upgrade kits for the saw blades and some clamps so I can make glue for the sensors, and there was something else I needed. Oh, glue for the extra chests. And then this should be ready for a test flight. I'm thinking maybe what I'll do is I'll just grab a couple of lengths of this yellow pipe, and I'll just come straight down off the ends here and I'll connect those up. And yeah, I don't know. I'm on the horns of the dilemma as to whether or not I want to move that over and make it symmetrical, because that does irritate me slightly. And it's just a minor thing now that I know what it is that I've done. It's a minor thing to fix, and it's more a matter of just cut and weld. So I might do that as well. So yeah, don't go away, kids. I have to go for a swim. We'll be back after I have some glue and some clams and we're ready to test fire this bad boy. Okay, kids, we're back. I've set up the sensor. I moved it up a little bit so it should be in line with the top of these wheels. I'm hoping that's high enough. I might have to go higher. It's set to range 9. I also shuffled this over so that everything's lined up center. It wasn't that the tray was off alignment. but it was actually this wall was out of alignment by 1. It wasn't too big of a deal. I just took it off and I moved it over, fixed everything up, and now it looks like it might work fairly well. And I just hooked up everything to the high level controller again, just to see if it will provide enough power spinning the saw blades. So I got basically a controller is spinning all these blades. I want to see if that will do the trick, if I'd have to have this. And then I set this sensor to trip that control box, which should rotate this arm down to 0 and hopefully saw through any trees that are in the way. So let's give this a quick test out. Now I'm just going to grab a large tree that should have no problems. So I'm going to grab one of these nice straight pine trees first, and we'll see how that works. I am sorry, this video is currently sitting at almost a full hour of record time. I'm not sure how much I'm going to edit out of it at this point, but I don't like to have these things running this long, so I want to apologize if this video is running long, and I'm trying to hurry as quickly as I can to wrap this up. So let's jump up here, pop the block, okay, and the sensor is actually not tripping that. Okay, I was afraid of that. I may have to. Why is that not tripping? Like, there's no reason that shouldn't trip. That's not what I wanted. It's not registering the tree being jammed in the way there. I need a button. I want to test this out. I'm not sure what to do. Maybe I'll try adding a couple or 3 sensors. Maybe one doesn't pick it, but maybe one of the other ones will. All I would need is one to trip it. Unfortunately, they have to be level 3 sensors. Real quick here, dude, make me a button. It's going to be really annoying if I still have to break these manually. This was the problem I was running into, is it wasn't cutting things proper originally. But if I can figure out how to get this to detect. Okay, we'll just put the button there, connect the button to the dealie and push the button. Should be connected to that controller. Okay, let's connect you to that controller. I wonder, can I connect that button to this seat? Okay, sit in the seat, push the button. Okay, and now why is that controller not working? Controller, -105. +2, let's try that. I can't tell if it's trying to move or it's not. Okay, up the speed to full strength. one more time. Jump in the seat, please. I mean, the log itself is falling into the hole. If I can just get this controller to work here, we'll be all set. I wonder, this didn't weld. It shouldn't have welded. I mean, it should be free movement. It's trying. It looks like it's trying. Okay, I don't know what's wrong with that. The cutoff saw isn't working the way it's supposed to yet. The other saw pieces seem to be grinding reasonably well. I mean, they're not that great. They never have been that great. I've been having a lot of problems with saws. As I said, maybe I'll have to put a thing on here to get it to work. I don't know. I don't understand why you are not turning though. Let's just knock this debris out of the way. I mean, see, that one cut perfectly, but this other one, it's just sitting here. This is what I mean. And then it's not picking the sticks up at all. The good thing is I can keep loading more and more crap in there. Eventually they will fall down in beside the saw blades and start cutting up. As for picking them up, I'm not sure. Maybe I'll have to figure something else out. Okay. Now there's nothing interfering with you. It just will not move. That controller just will not move this blade. It's not welded. It's not jammed. Try that. It shouldn't be too heavy for that. It's a bearing. It's not like it doesn't have any problems moving it when it's that's what gets me. It doesn't have any problems moving it when it was getting set up. So when I placed it down, it moved it no problem. But now it won't move it for some reason. Okay. Well, that's my biggest issue is I've got a saw blade that I can't get to rotate up and down. Other than that, I'd say so far it's a fairly reasonably good beginning. Not sure why this guy's not working. Those resources are sitting in the crate. You should be sitting far enough back to pick them up. Do I gotta move this guy back just a touch? I'll check the other guy. It might just be some tweaks and some finishings just to move them around. Yeah, he's not working either. There's a point where they don't pick up behind them. I think that might be all it is. So we'll move these guys back just slightly. There you go. You locked in correctly. You should be picking out of both of them now. I'll just have to do the same with this guy. I'll just move him back and place him in the correct position. And then I gotta figure out what's wrong with that saw. But I mean, if that's all the problems we have, we are doing pretty good. Once that saw is working the way it's supposed to, then I should be able to handle the big trees, and we now have a functional sawmill processing facility. Of course, eventually I will want to, like I said, I will want to make this some sort of a vehicle so I can actually move it around and not just keep loading and welding, but that will be a project for another day. So thanks all for watching, kids. Hope you're enjoying Scrap Mechanic, and I'll see you on the next episode. Good night for now.